Hello everyone, and welcome to another random video on the internet. And with me today, I have a very special guest. The myth, the legend himself, Thunder God.
What's going on, guys? TG or Thunder God here. Thank you for having me on the channel. It's a good time to be here.
A pleasure to have you here. Today we're gonna be talking about a topic that I personally find really interesting. It's sort of similar to what Swag and Seth have done in the past. We're gonna be talking about a team battle between Sharingan users and Sage Mode users, which I think is a very interesting concept. There's a lot of narrative, Naruto and Sasuke, Madara, Hashirama, Minato and Obito. There are a lot of moments in the series where Sage Mode clashes with the Sharingan. So today we're gonna examine some matchups with that. And the main characters that we picked for this, it's gonna be 5-on-5. On the Uchiha side, or the Sharingan side, we have Madara. We're gonna be using Edo Tensei specifically. Sasuke, peak EMS, so like peak Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. White Mask Obito, Edo Itachi, and early war Kakashi. And then for the Sage Mode users, we're gonna be using Sage Edo Hashirama, KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto, Sage Minato, Sage Kabuto, and Sage Jiraiya. So do you want to go into why we picked these specific versions just really quickly?
Yeah, we really were looking to pick like versions where these characters are really relevant in the time frame, and these would be actually like very good matchups, or the characters are just simply comparable, and these would have been like forms they faced off in. We really try to paint like a bit of consistency and keep these matchups on the more fair side.
Yeah, because if we give Jubidara and Rinnegan Sasuke and Jubito, it's kind of a stomp, and if we take Baryon mode as well, it's kind of bad. So the way this video is going to go is we will talk about individual matchups or individual tiers of strength in these teams, and then we're going to be talking about how the teams would do overall, what kind of teamwork could they maybe use, and how separate matchups would affect each other. So I think we can just hop right into it, and let's start from the top, just to sort of do it how Seth and Swag did, because I feel like it's the easiest way. So at the top we have Edo Madara versus Edo Hashirama. Now we kind of already saw this one, but this matchup might be a little bit different, so would you want to go into that?
Yeah, so initially like when we see Madara and Hashirama fight as Edo Tensei, like Madara is fighting in order to gain Hashirama's Sage power. And even as he says this, he's like unleashing the Rinnegan Rod, and you see him like he has Hashirama restrained, and from that point like Hashirama couldn't move. So the fight doesn't last like nearly as long as their final Valley fight, which is partly due to the way like Madara is fighting. He was fighting a lot more recklessly with an ulterior motive as an Edo Tensei. He doesn't really even care that like Jubito's like nuking the battlefield. He's like, nah, just keep fighting. We're Edo Tensei. It's totally fine. You know what I mean? So, he is fighting with that, which kind of gives this idea. Okay, if he was going for a straight W, the fight might have taken a different turn and really wouldn't have lasted, or would have lasted a bit longer, as the way the original fight was just like Madara trying to achieve an objective by like trying to suppress Hashirama as quickly as he could, since like the tree was about to sprout in like 15 minutes, so he did not have the time to kind of play around and really try and like force Hashirama into a bunch of situations.
Yep. Madara himself states that he was fighting very recklessly as an Edo Tensei. When he comes back to life, he's like, yeah, I was fighting sloppily. So if he approaches this fight more carefully, he could definitely stall a lot longer, like you said. And I feel like this matchup is going to go on long enough for other characters to intervene, because we already see them being relative to each other, like Hashirama in his prime, Edo Tensei, and then Madara with Rinnegan amps and stuff like that. Like, they're very comparable. So I feel like it's gonna come down to other people supporting them in this matchup.
I definitely agree.
So moving on, then we have peak EMS Sasuke versus Sage Mode Naruto in KCM2. Now, I feel like many people are gonna look at this and go, what? Like, Sage Mode Naruto stomps, dude. Like, what? Like, this Itachi level fodder? Like, what's he gonna do?
Oh, no. No.
Bro, Sasuke, like, you said you wanted to make a whole video on this, so let's maybe not make this too long. So just really quickly to explain. Sasuke was extremely mental nerfed in the fight with Itachi and Kabuto, because he's like so confused about where he wants to go in life that he feels the need to bring back Orochimaru, the most evil guy in the existence. And then he like talks to the Kage, he gets some resolve, he's getting constant like hatred amps because he hates the Leaf. His hatred constantly expands. He hates the Leaf Village, then he hates the world. He wants to like reform everything. And then whenever he's fighting, we see that when he unlocks a new stage of the Susanoo, he gets stronger. This is shown when he's able to overpower Danzo's curse marks, when he unlocks a new stage of the Susanoo, whereas before he wasn't able to. In that fight with Obito, at first he's fighting with several amps from Jugo and from Naruto himself, but then he loses those amps. Like, Jugo is no longer there, and he gets knocked out of Naruto Sage and Bijou Chakras. And then he fuses with Naruto and sort of unlocks the perfect Susanoo, design-wise, because you see the crystal, you see the nose, you see the scales, like, it's clearly a perfect Susanoo design.
Yep.
And there's also this really crazy statement from Tobirama, if you want to take it at face value, where it says that to perform combo attacks, you need to have equal amounts of chakra, and they're forming the majestic attire together, so I don't know how you feel about that.
Bro's an absolute, like, menace, and it's not, listen, obviously, like, you know, EMS Sasuke is, like, an underrated character, but he, like, him showing relativity to this Naruto shouldn't, like, be that inconsistent when they're both, like, perceiving, like, Jubito's absurd movements. This being the same guy who was just literally, like, touted to be stronger than Edo Hashirama. So he is keeping pace with Naruto. This also might be attributed to, like, the Sage Mode buff not being that crazy, which I'm of the personal opinion of. I don't think it was, like, that much of an amp to a point where, like, it made Sasuke's, like, Susanoo that much stronger than what it already was. I think it was a little different than that. But, yeah, honestly, this Sasuke does show great relativity to this Naruto. Now, we're not saying he's, like, stronger than him. I don't think that's the case, especially if you look at their, like, arsenals and battle of attrition. But there is a degree of relativity there, which is what we really want to get across. Like, he's not that much more below than what people suggest. And even the statement about him being, like, feeling inferior to Naruto's, like, absurd chakra control over the Nine Tails chakra, he's like, he sees that and then he's like, okay, and then proceeds to adapt further. Like, it starts getting stronger after that. So it's like, you know, he could be weaker at one time and grow stronger, you know. So yeah, he's honestly an animal, and there really is a great degree of relativity here.
Yeah, the work is weird like that, because characters just get stronger out of absolutely nowhere. Like, if you want to get real edgy, Sakura is a prime example of that, but I don't want to go into that here.
Oh, God.
But then, moving on to the next matchup, it would be White Mask Obito versus Sage Mode Minato. Not KCM Sage Mode, because we never see him really stack KCM on top of Sage Mode. And this video is supposed to be Sage Mode users, so you know, Sage Mode makes more sense to use than KCM here. So how do you feel about Sage Mode Minato here? How strong is he?
The thing is, you really gotta ask yourself, because Obito's very implied to be on Madara's tier. I'm whether or not you think he beats Madara, or, like, you know, is stronger than him. Irrelevant. It's just they're very implied to be relative in terms of strength. This being, like, how they're perceived, the chapter statements made about them, their jutsu size, like their fire style, all this absurd size. You really have to ask yourself, okay, is Sage Mode Minato gonna tangle with, like, Edo Madara tier of fighter? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I'll say this too. It doesn't help that Minato's Sage Mode is not good. Like, I've never supported it being good. He admits himself that it takes too long to charge up. It doesn't last long. So maybe you could argue, like, he dances around and, like, teleports around, and, like, he has to. It's the type of thing where, like, he'd have to go back and, like, replenish Sage Mode, like, each time it runs out very quickly. So. And we also don't know, like, how much stronger it makes Minato compared to his base. It's not like he has some crazy showings that, like, give him this, oh, we have this definitive feat. Nah, like, he tanks a hit from, like, Ten Tails Madara. So maybe you could argue, like, if Obito, like, hit him with this fan, he might live. But Obito really just has, like, that distinct, like, hacks advantage. Honestly, like, Minato shouldn't be a speed tier above Obito in any capacity. Like, he still shouldn't be. Like, even in a much weaker Obito, and we know he's weaker because the Rinnegan is a distinct buff. It has its own chakra. Is performing well against, like, just base Minato. So it's like, you know, I would argue the Rinnegan would be a far greater buff than Sage Mode.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to quickly, like, go back to that 14-year-old Obito stuff, people say it's a complete stomp, but they're moving at the same exact speed. Their movement speed and reaction speed are relative. The anime sort of makes Minato out to be, specifically, way more fast because of the whole slow motion thing. But in the manga, it's just instant. He doesn't even catch the kunai or anything. He's just like, bop.
Yeah.
He disappears. Like, Obito's like, yeah, I won. And then gets a Rasengan slammed into him instantly.
No, yeah, I agree. The Minato, the anime has that effect with Minato. Like, the 8th gate guy example with the truth seeking orbs.
Oh,
like
God.
in the manga, he just like he's there and he's gone. But in the anime, he does like a 360, catches that, and he's out. So it's like that. The anime like will extend it to like make Minato look like way faster than whoever he's fighting.
Yeah, not to get into that too much here, because I kind of want to talk about that in another video sometime. But even if you say that Minato is like relative to the full Nine Tails, his body flicker is faster than its movement speed, like if you want to go there, we know that Naruto in KCM 2 should be at the very least relative to that, like bare minimum. And then we have Obito out here just boxing with him, able to react to him, not with just Kamui, but also with wood-style bindings and stuff. He's able to react to his movement speed. And you know, some people say he's like below KCM 1 Naruto, when it's just clearly not the case. Because like, we see Kakashi and Guy relative to KCM Naruto, for the most part, and then they're not able to do anything to the beach bombs. They're like charging at him. They say they're going to do stuff, but we see that the beach bombs are like moments away from hitting them, and they're still not opening the 8th gate or using Kamui or anything. They're just not moving at all. And Naruto just blitzes over to them and just, before they can even perceive what's happening, like blows every bomb away. In case
with this base chakra. It's not even like the 9-tail chakra just slapping away, which is absurd. It's such a crazy thing.
Yeah. And then we have Obito just reacting to that, and Obito blatantly is holding back because he wants to break Naruto. Like, even later on in the fight, there's like a moment where they have the 10 tails going. Like, Madara's like, yo, do you wanna wipe out the alliance right now? Obito's like, nah, let's slowly cripple their resolve, despite clearly being able to just one-shot them with a Jubi Blast. So, he's just obviously not going for the W right away. He wants to break Naruto before he does that. So that's pretty much like how he's viewed there. And also, as Jubito, there are blatant moments where Kakashi's like, yeah, you're holding back. Like, that's literally what he says. You want to see Naruto break before you like, finish him off.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Obito doesn't even have to rely on Kamui here. He has those Rinnegan rods, which if he pierces Minato with them, he can definitely paralyze him because of the chakra rods and the chains that come out of them. They're able to bind Bijou, so Minato is not really going to break out of that anytime soon. So,
no, I agree. Like, the chakra binding is too much. It's just, he's going to be restrained by a lot, and like Obito's just going to throw like way too much at him.
Right, so next up is gonna be Itachi as the Edo Tensei versus Kabuto. We already saw this one as well, but it's kind of weird. Do you want to go into that matchup?
Yeah, this is always a weird matchup, and everybody will talk about it just because, you know, Itachi tells Sasuke, we can't kill this dude. And then you got Kabuto being like, don't worry, I'm not gonna kill Sasuke, I'm gonna rewrite the tag in your head though. So it's like, okay. And then you have Itachi also defending Sasuke at points in the fight, but then like Kabuto like tells him, oh, I'm not gonna really attack Sasuke, you're bugging. You know, so there's a bit of like, okay, these guys are holding back to a degree, but I do think, you know, even holding back, they still are able to compete with each other, which does say something. So I think you could extend that into their full capabilities. And you know, we even see this with Itachi. Like, he's clearly holding back. He's not using the Totsuka blade. Yadamir, his like full power Susanoo doesn't even make it. It makes an appearance like once in the fight, so it's very clear. And you can see this with Sasuke too. He's not even using like Inferno style or flame control or anything, which would just be disastrous for Kabuto. He's just using like basic Amaterasu. So you know, and that also extends to Kabuto. Now, full power, it might be a bit different. Location aside, because location does make a bit of a difference for Kabuto. I do think, you know, you brought this up to me before, but it's like Kabuto does do very well in close quarters, but Itachi's still relative enough to where he can react to Kabuto from across the battlefield. They're able to move at relative speeds, like when he's holding his sword and like runs at Kabuto. So I do think this isn't like a blowout on either side. I do think it is a bit closer than people make it out to be.
Yeah, I feel like those two can have a very good battle. This matchup is definitely going to take a while. Kabuto, we do see, is able to catch Itachi off guard a couple times through his snakes and through his like inorganic reanimation. And we actually see Itachi tries to put up a Susanoo during the inorganic reanimation's attack, and he's able to only put up a hand to protect Sasuke. He's not able to manifest a full ribcage to protect himself. So you can definitely argue that Kabuto has some advantages on Itachi when it comes to jutsu. But here Itachi would also just be worried about himself all the time. He wouldn't have to protect Sasuke, and he could use Totsuka Blade, Yara, and he can use them almost indefinitely because Edos have like infinitely regenerating chakra. Kabuto is not really breaching that defense, but Kabuto can also perceive Itachi a lot. I feel like he could definitely dodge the Totsuka Blade stabs and stuff like that with Sage Mode, Precog, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's nutty. It's absurd. He's like dodging the Susanoo arrow like inside the snake. Like his sensory capabilities at this point are just absurd.
And then lastly, this one's kind of unfair. Like I'm sad to say this, but like Kakashi early war versus Jiraiya. Kakashi just sort of snipes him.
Yeah.
What do we say? Like, he's relative to, like, KCM levels of speed. And, you know, maybe we can just give Jiraiya the benefit of the doubt. Say, take that statement that he's, like, above the 5 Kage and the Great Nations, and give him right Kage levels of speed. Like, you know, maybe then it's, like, a better fight. Like, what do you think, man?
It's bad, man. It's bad. And it's, like, it's not our fault, man. Like, it's like, what do you say? He doesn't... You know what I mean? Listen, like, it's so... There's just too big of a stat difference at this point. It's just absurd. And, like, Kakashi literally... And by the way, we're being generous. Like, even if we give Jiraiya, like, Sage Mode initially, it doesn't even matter because, like, like, his best win con would more likely than be Frog Sog, as, like, even his fastest technique is just getting casually blocked by Pain, like, one of the weaker paths of Pain on, in my opinion. So it's, like... If you take that into account, like, he's not going to attack Kakashi with any of his jutsu. And, like, you know, Frog Song is going to take way too long to charge up. There's no hallways for him to run through or anything like that. So, no. And then, like, you would just have Kakashi, who's, like, faster than him, running past him with, like, Shido or Raikiri amp speed and be in front of him and, like, you know, comboing him. It'd be really bad. So, yeah, nah, it's kind of a stomp in Kakashi's favor, unfortunately. Maybe, like... And the problem is, I will say too, like, maybe, like, you could argue, like, 5 Kage Summit, maybe. But then, like, those versions of Kakashi we just don't know enough about to, like, accurately give an assessment. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's kind of a stop, to be honest, in Kakashi's favor, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. I've always had the opinion that the longer a character lives in the series, the stronger they get by default, because there's just gonna be some way to scale them to, like, higher tier characters. That's how you get Sakura above Madara and stuff like that. Like, it's stupid, but it just, like... It's just bound to happen. Like, the longer a character lives on, the more fortunate they are in terms of scaling. It's just unfortunate that Jiraiya just gets kind of power crept here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree fully.
So now we can move on to, like, the big team battle. So, just to sort of simplify, to not get into, like, who fights who, and, you know, maybe the matchups could go entirely differently than we laid out here, because it's not like they're just gonna be lined up like, yeah, this guy is my opponent, I'm gonna aim at him, you know?
There's a bracket.
Yeah, like, you know, Dragon Ball Super tournament bracket.
Yeah, shooting exams, bro.
Yeah, so, like, we're just gonna limit it to just these matchups for now, because if it goes differently than this, then it's gonna get way too complicated. So, the way we're feeling from the matchups that we discussed, Itachi versus Kabuto, Sasuke versus Naruto, and Hashirama versus Madara are gonna go on for a while. But then Kakashi is just gonna pretty much, like, almost instantly defeat Jiraiya within, like, the first minute of the fight, and he can go support someone. And Obito is probably gonna take, like, 5 minutes at most dealing with Minato, so he can also go support someone. A funny interaction would be if... we talked about this before the recording. What if Kakashi, like, Kamui's Jiraiya without knowing that it will bring him into the Kamui realm? And then Jiraiya just sort of sees Obito phasing through a Rasengan or something and starts attacking him from the inside. That's, like, the biggest use Jiraiya has.
Oh my gosh. It's funny too, because you could even argue, like, Jiraiya might not be able to damage him even, since the dude is taking, like, QB Naruto's Rasengan to his back, into his face. So it's hilarious to think of at that point. And I know people are gonna say, like, Kakashi was punching him, but, like, that Kakashi's, like, way stronger, so it's like it still wouldn't, like, necessarily be Jiraiya good, which is, it's just really funny.
Look, I just imagine Obito's, like, phasing through, and then suddenly he feels, like, something massaging his back, which is a Rasengan, and he's like, oh, what is this? Like, he...
Nice toad oil bath going on, you know what I'm saying? Just relaxing.
Yeah. So the best use for Jiraiya, I feel like it would be just him hanging back and charging up Frog Song while everyone else tries to hold off the Sharingan team. maybe in that case he could pull something off and catch some of them in a genjutsu. And they could probably free each other from it. Like, it depends on how strong you think the genjutsu is. But in the opening, that would provide, like, that brief few seconds, maybe Minato could, like, somehow seal away Obito or Itachi or something, or Kabuto could jump Itachi. You know, maybe that could do something. Like, what do you think about the frog song?
It's interesting because, you know, we don't see it like interact with any Sharingan, which I'll say this: the Sharingan innately is a lot more defensively capable against Genjutsu than a lot of other dojutsu. Just via it being like the visual, it being the Genjutsu, one of like the big three like visual prowesses, the Rinnegan being ninjutsu, and the Byakugan being taijutsu. And you do see this at certain points in the series, and you even see this like this extends because a lot of Genjutsu specialists aren't very defensive, like seeing Kurenai, like when she gets her Genjutsu reflected back like Itachi. So, you know, it is a little weird to say. Honestly, like, I'll say this. I can't imagine it being, like, even if it were to, like, restrain them momentarily, I can't imagine it would... It's so weird, because, like, did Pain break out of it by himself? Like, what happened? Like, if he broke out of it by himself, come on. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Like, realistically. So, I can't see having the greatest effect. I will say it is debatable, because it is absolutely absurd Sage-boosted Genjutsu. And because Ma and Pa are the ones who are using it, you could argue it, like, scales above Jiraiya himself, which I would acknowledge. But, you know, how far can we really push it before we're kind of getting into some outlandish territory? You know what I mean?
Yeah, worst case scenario, the Uchihas and like Kakashi being the fake Uchiha, I guess, in this matchup, they could look into each other's eyes and break each other out. Depending on the distance between them, I guess, but they should be able to do that. I just think like that momentary distraction might be enough for somebody from the Sage team to just jump someone from the Sharingan team and maybe like land a mortal wound or something. Yeah. But other than that, Jiraiya is kind of a non-factor, and Kakashi would probably move on to support the others. And then same with Obito, so like, what do you think, like, where would Kakashi go most likely? I feel like he could probably go to like the next tier up, which would be Itachi and Kabuto's fight.
Yeah, the thing is, Kakashi's just not, on top of like, I definitely think he would go to that tier, just on top of the fact that he's not really relevant. He can be relevant, but I don't think he'd be as useful against like the Edo Hashirama and like QB Naruto, KCM2 Stage 1 Naruto. He wouldn't like I would, in my opinion, like if I was Kakashi, like he wouldn't be as useful in that situation. Like he's a lot more closer to Itachi in strength. And this being especially prevalent, like he starts perceiving their movements. He's like, okay, these guys are too fast. I probably shouldn't engage. Especially with those characters being a definitive speed tier above. But then you have like Itachi and Kabuto, who I would argue are in a similar tier to Kakashi. So I definitely see him going over there. In which case, I definitely think Kakashi and Itachi would be too much. As honestly, if he initiates a Kamui on Kabuto, you can maybe say like, you can be kind of weird about it and say like, okay, if he starts Kamuing him, can Kabuto like liquefy through it? You know what I'm saying? Like just tear off the parts that are like getting Kamui, which is an interesting interpretation because I do think like his liquefaction, like Suigetsu, is like really broken. But in which case, like he's very similar to the previous match where he just kind of needs to stun Kabuto for a moment for like Itachi to enact like a Totsuka Blade GG. Or maybe like initiate something else, or like maybe light him up with a Madarasu. So, you know, they just really need to keep him for a moment for like one of them to initiate their instant kill hacks. That's the way I look at it. On top of the fact that like now Kabuto can't really genjutsu them. He's dealing with two set of eyes. It's just gonna be a lot harder to play.
Yeah, I will say, like, that thing you brought up is really funny, like liquefying through Kamui. I feel like he could probably sense where the Kamui portal is about to appear and maybe like try to jump out of the way, but we also see Kakashi's Kamui is ludicrously quick compared to his own body. Because like Pain is able to perceive Kakashi just fine, he's like reacting to his Raikiri and stuff. But then when Kakashi pulls out Kamui, he's not even able to perceive him Kamuing away the nail that he sends at him. Then Sasuke is like a speed tier above him as well, he shoots an arrow, and then Kakashi just sucks it up. He's like, yeah, I would have died if I didn't have Kamui. I could not move out of the way, but Kamui just blitzed it. Like, it's really weird. I feel like he could probably get Kabuto with that. I feel like the best scenario for Kabuto would be if he realizes that he's outmatched and tries to like go to someone else, like to Minato for support. But then if like all three of the Sharingan users team up on Minato and Kabuto at that point, like Obito included, like it's just gonna go badly for them. And then Obito is obviously beating like Minato, like we said. I feel like what it comes down to is like Naruto's above Sasuke a little bit. He'd box him out in a fight eventually. But it's gonna take long enough for Obito or someone else to arrive to support Sasuke. And at that point, it's gonna be really bad for Naruto. You can sort of go into that.
Yeah, like, you know, and we mentioned this with, like, moderates here, which, like, like, Sasuke's already approaching, Naruto's also approaching Hashirama levels, they're rapidly powering up, and then you really just have, like, Sasuke with an avatar comparable to Naruto's, and then you would have Obito who's able to, like, as Naruto's distracted, like, come up behind him and just grab him on some, like, Minato level, like, BFR. So, you know, that's going to be way too much for Naruto to handle. He's just not going to be able to, and I know his, like, sensory capabilities at this point are absurd, but it's just going to be too much to juggle, and you could even argue, like, maybe Obito might actually force him out of the QB avatar, in which case, like, he'll have to take time to reform it. A lot of people will not notice, say this too, but Naruto actually does have a time limit on his, like, QB avatar. It just kind of gets extended over the duration of the war arc. It goes from 5 to 8 minutes to an unquantifiable amount too. So, you know, at a certain point, maybe you could argue with 6 pats, he can hold it indefinitely, but we just never, that's never built upon. You know, we don't really see the upper limits of that. So, you know, all Sasuke really has to do is, like, keep him busy and be on par, in which case Obito can just assist him. This also extends to Madara, in which case, like, Obito kind of does the same thing. He can just tag team with Madara against Hashirama, in which case, if it was, like, if it was a stalemate the first time and as Edo's, you know, Obito will be able to make him a difference, as he's very relevant to Madara in strength, arguably a rival to him. So I think, like, if he joins either of those fights, he will be able to, like, turn the tide.
Yeah, I think there's even a statement that, like, Madara and Obito, the two greatest villains, crashed down on the Alliance with the same overwhelming power or something like that. So they're just narratively relative to each other. They're like the bosses of the war. So I feel like the tide is really going in the Sharingan favor here. People are gonna say, like, you're Uchiha fanboys and stuff, but, like, I like Naruto way more than I like Sasuke. But it's just sort of how it works out here. I feel like the best argument for the Sage side of things would be if at the beginning of the fight Naruto is able to make a few KCM2 clones to go help out the lower tiers of, like, the fighters.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Sasuke couldn't stop it. Like, if they both go into their avatars, Naruto could just make a couple clones and send them off to assist Jiraiya and Kabuto. So, if that happens, how do you feel the fight goes then?
Then I could definitely see a case for, like, the lower tier fighters struggling a lot more with Naruto. Because Naruto's ability to make clones after he achieves, like, he links up with Kurama, he can make clones that are in Sage mode, in KCM1, KCM2, it doesn't matter. Like, he could make them all, and it really doesn't matter even while inside the Kurama avatar. So, he really has, like, a wide selection, and it's like, I'll give you, like, Itachi versus Kabuto, for example, because that's close enough. Like, there could be some momentum shifts due to that. Due to Naruto entering the fray and it's just being too much to juggle. So I definitely think if he starts making clones and, like, spreading those throughout the battlefield, there could be a lot of momentum shifts. I don't know if it necessarily would mean, like, I don't think, like, for example, that clone's, like, beating White Mask Obito or anything like that. But it will help out Minato extend the fight a little bit longer. And I would say this too. Even if Kabuto and, like, Jiraiya, for whatever reason, like, did beat Itachi and Kakashi with the aid of clones, I still think Obito by himself kind of makes up the difference, especially if he's able to go defeat one of the big two. Because the minute Naruto or Hashirama falls, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have Sasuke, Obito, and Madara jumping one of them. In which case, it's gonna be too much. So, you know, it really is, like, Obito's kind of the deal breaker. And I don't see, like, the KCM2 clones being able to just, like, swat him away or do anything to that degree. I think they can make a difference in the lower matchups, but just, like, against him, it just doesn't make too much.
Yeah, I feel like what's gonna happen in that scenario is Jiraiya and Kabuto will eventually go help out Minato against Obito with possibly 3 KCM2 clones. But even then, I don't know if Naruto would want to make that many. He might just make 1 or 2 because it also, like, sort of splits his chakra. So I feel like Obito could, at the very least, hold on for a while against them, and in all likelihood, he could probably pierce the clones with Rinnegan rods and make them poof away, and then he would just dismantle the team one by one. No one's really coming close to him in power from that trio. Like, Sage Kabuto is probably the most debatable, but he's not, like, beating White Mask Obito.
Yeah. And, you know, I do think, like, it's an interesting matchup, but I don't think, like, there's enough evidence, empirically speaking, to say, like, it's a joke between us. But, like, Obito is just a tier above. I'm gonna say it. So yeah.
Yeah. So eventually, like, Obito would still probably go help out one of the big tiers. Like, he'd probably be a little worn down, maybe. But even then, he should be able to make up the difference against Hashirama or Naruto. And then, once one of them goes down, the other one just has to face Madara, Sasuke, and Obito all at the same time. And at that point, it's gonna be, like, GG's.
You know what might be interesting if like Hashirama makes wood clones as well, but then like Madara would just make wood clones to match the wood clones of Hashirama. And it's like funny too, because it's like, okay, wouldn't Madara beats Hashirama, or like can Madara just send his wood clones to fight Naruto's? You know, so it's like it's not even exclusive to just Naruto at this point. Like the other two do have the same ability.
Yeah, I feel like Naruto's the most free to use it though, because Sasuke can't really stop him, whereas Madara can stop Hashirama and vice versa.
100%.
But overall, I think we agree the Sharingan side does take it, like, probably moderate to maybe high difficulty if Naruto pulls out the clones and Obito has to take a few of them on. But overall, I feel like the Sharingan side just takes it pretty handily.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's like, it's just the result of like those Sharingan users' final bosses in this series. It's just kind of the way things spread out. And they just ended up being like very relevant, even like after their death, like with Edo Tensei, like you had Itachi come back and perform all this crazy stuff. So, you know, and Kakashi grows stronger. So honestly, like it's just more so like Sharingan was utilized a lot more. And even though Sage Mode was utilized a lot, it just wasn't utilized to that same degree.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely go check out Chiji. He's very good. Makes very good content. I definitely enjoy watching it. Like, Nagato vs Itachi was a very good breakdown, I feel. But anyways, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time. Goodbye. Hey, this is Editor Satori speaking. Looking back, this video did definitely go in the Uchiha's favor a lot. So I just want to give some quick alternate routes that we could have taken here. Obito is a big crutch for this fight, and White Mask Obito just seems a little bit too strong for it, because unless Naruto uses clones, he just sort of wipes the lower tiers, and then goes on to support the upper tiers. But if we used Orange Mask Obito, then Minato's fight with him would be a lot closer. We basically already saw that fight, except here both characters are buffed. And it's my opinion that Orange Mask Obito is stronger than Yellow Mask. But you know, to each their own, I guess. But in any case, this battle would either go on for a while, or it would end with a one-hit KO like the last time, in which, like, I'm not sure who I'm leaning toward here between Obito and Minato. So, their battle could either be a stalemate, or it could just end with Minato winning or Obito winning. But either way, even if Obito does win, he's not going to be anywhere near as consequential to the battles up ahead between like Hashirama and Naruto. So Naruto might eventually be able to take down Sasuke, and then the battle would be won. Another thing is, Obito definitely couldn't hold off any KCM2 clones that Naruto might send out. So the lower tiers might just be a wash, and then the entire Sage team will team up on Sasuke or Madara. And yeah, if Orange Mask Obito is used, then the Sage team probably wins. Another scenario that we could have gone for is KCM Minato. We didn't because this is supposed to be Sages versus Sharingans, and KCM Minato isn't really a Sage. But if we did use him, then his battle with White Mask Obito would definitely take a while, and it would be a good fight. He could also use clones to assist the lower tiers too, and maybe send a couple to even assist Naruto against Sasuke too. So, at that point, Obito couldn't really stop those clones, and the Sages would likely win that battle, cause Minato and Naruto's clones together would just sort of wipe out the lower tiers, and Obito just couldn't really hold off KCM Minato plus KCM Naruto clones plus Kabuto. It would just be too much. And then another thing I quickly want to mention that we forgot to go over in the actual video, this is with the regular teams that we chose. Naruto might actually be able to send some clones to assist Hashirama against Madara. Regular KCM2 clones might turn the tide, but I think a better option would be for Naruto to make a KCM2 Sage Mode clone. It would split his chakra, and it would nerf the original Naruto against Sasuke, but he still should be able to hold out long enough for Hashirama to overwhelm Madara with the help of a KCM2 Sage Mode clone, which I think they definitely could. Like, if Naruto joined the battle against Madara, I think Madara would fall. So, if that's the case, then we would have Madara and Hashirama versus White Mask, Kabuto, and Sasuke. Those would be like the only heavy hitters left. And I do think Sasuke and Obito would take the L eventually there. So yeah, I do think there are scenarios where the Sages definitely win. It's just that the matchups we chose for this video do go toward the Uchiha for the most part. Unless Naruto sends clones to help Hashirama. That's like the only scenario where I can see the Sages pulling it off. But anyways, hope you enjoyed. This video was a blast to record. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these, so let me know what team battles you would want to see next, because I definitely enjoy doing these. So we could get a bunch of people to just do all sorts of team battles. So if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. And I hope to see you next time. Peace out.